What is going on? Coach Luca is back here with none other than
Coach Kelsey.
It's been a while, it's been too long. So now we got to do some Coach's Corner stuff. And what we're going to dissect today is the lunge. Now, there's a lot of lunge variations, like so many that we can't even go over today, but we want to start with a foundational thing. And actually the lunge is one of those things where most people are like, oh, of course I know how to do a lunge, I just step back into lunge, right? But there really is a lot of, I would say, form things that can get a little wacky. And if you continuously have that type of form, it's gonna beat you up. Low back, knees, foot, all types of different things. So we're gonna start with like the foundational lunge that we teach and kind of look at some things that we can fix, right? So look at patterns that go wrong and look at some things that we can fix. And this one's called the 90-90 lunge. So Kelsey's gonna start with this one, and some people call it the static lunge, which one, what did you
Split
go?
squat?
The split squat, there you go, right? So there's all these different names for it, but the main thing is that like we have 2 points of contact at all times, right? So the reason we call it 90-90, because I got a 90-degree angle here and 90-degree angle in the back. Okay, so Kelsey's gonna set up that 90-90 position, and the reason, so we're gonna kind of look at like some of the things that can happen that end up being, you know, mistakes per se. So one is this lean back, right? Where people don't necessarily feel like they're leaning back, but right now she's like basically feeling her low back a lot. Her hip might feel like it's stretching, but she's not in a good position, right? So we wanna keep our pelvis under our rib cage. So if Kelsey's like this, that's not happening. Look at where our rib cage is, like it's flaring up, right? So here in this 90-90 position, I say, squeezing this butt cheek, keeping the ribs down, and like imagine somebody's pulling you by a string and getting you tall, right? Because you can't be leaning back if somebody's pulling you tall, okay? From that position, she's really gonna focus on keeping that front leg. We call this a tripod foot, okay? So we talked about this earlier and we're gonna come back to it, but tripod foot is like feeling your big toe, little toe, and heel. It's like a tripod, right? You equally feel those when you're pressing up to that lunge position. So let's kind of, I'm gonna always recap things over and over and over, right? So squeezing the butt, keeping a little bit of ab tension right here, thinking tall, and then having that tripod foot position. And she's gonna drive through that front leg. There we go. And you can almost lock it out. I prefer to have like a soft knee and not completely lock it out. And now going straight down. So straight down. Here's what happens. You can like lay on the ground real quick, keep it soft. She should be feeling a little bit of a stretch in that front. You feeling that?
Sure do.
Yep. So because the thing is, a lot of times you'll feel like this, right? And you're like, oh, I'm not feeling anything. Because we don't have our core engaged and we're not in a good position.
I mean, this is still under tension right
Yes,
now.
absolutely. Like it should legitimately be stretching your hip if you're in a quality position, right? Because most people have tight hips, that's why it's tough for her. Okay, so if it's a static lunge, let's do another rep. It's driving up. And now when you come down, imagine that there's a scale under this knee, and I want it to show only about 50% of your weight. All right, so it's gonna touch, show 50% of your weight, and then drive back up again. Boom. There we go. Let's do one more rep. And break. Now what's cool about that is that because we do a static lunge, it's really difficult to cheat this hip position, right? So her foot is straight, okay? Because one thing that's gonna happen a lot of times, actually, go back just into that 90-90 position. This is one thing you're gonna see a lot of. Toe turned out, and even the knee, bring it out a little bit more. Yes, okay? So you can see how her hip is rotated out and her foot's rotated out. Now you can imagine if you're doing that for a lot of reps, it's gonna bang up your toe, you're gonna have some groin issues a lot of times, right? And low back is rotated. So, right, it feels like, hey, I'm doing a lunge, but look at my position of my hips.
You're opening up too much.
Exactly, right? So we want those if these little hip bones here, they should both face forward, okay? This is really, really, really important because once we go into that next position, that reverse lunge, it becomes so much harder to control, okay? So make sure your foot is facing forward and your hips are square, okay? Now, here's one cool thing. I'm gonna show you this on myself. So a lot of times when people step back into a lunge, their hip pops out, right? You kind of see that, right? Okay, so this is what I like to do. This is a grab the butt cheek drill, by the way, okay? Don't be scared of doing that. So if you have unstable hips, like they'll pop out, okay? I like to like legit grab my butt cheek and then push it to the opposite, I would say, leg. So watch, this hip is not falling out. I'm just pushing it to the opposite leg. what's crazy is like you're gonna feel your abs way more, right? So now I'm completely level, and you can see now I have a much more aligned hip. You're gonna feel your glute more, your quad more, and you're gonna be much safer and healthier, right? So let's go to a reverse lunge real quick. So here's the deal, right? The reason why we do a static lunge first, because now as soon as Kelsey goes into reverse lunge, when she steps back, she's on one leg, right? And it's a lot tougher to now stabilize that hip, okay? So let's go into the reverse lunge. Try to get that same position, good, and then driving back up. Nice. Now, sometimes you might have a good position in a static lunge. As soon as you go reverse lunge, now you're getting all types of bending back or forward head posture, right? So that's why it's important to start with a static and then go to this. Now, here's what I like to do, even if I would say, body weight decently challenging, is add you could use a dumbbell, you could use a kettlebell is obviously awesome for this, but for Kelsey to stabilize her core and keep a good position, she's gonna be in a goblet position, and as she steps back, she's gonna bring this out just a little bit, okay? So let's go for like 3 reps on this, and she's gonna feel her abs, because as soon as the bell comes out, her rib cage is gonna come down, right?
And am I pushing out at the same time?
Same time, but just not all the way, just think about like a third of the way out. Nice. And you could actually see like her abs turn on as soon as she presses out. And it keeps her posture really nice, core engaged, glutes, and break. Nice, right? Feel the difference on that, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
It automatically like puts you into that position.
You don't have to think about like brace because the thing is, it's very difficult to do this and lean back. It's not gonna work out, right? So as soon as you come out here, it's gonna try to pull you down, your abs have to work, and now we have a more level kind of like hip and core, right? So if there's always like one drill that you can do that kind of fixes a whole bunch of stuff. So that's a great one, okay? Because you can still hold the bell here and do that, right? But I can't hold the bell here and lean back. So, I mean, try it. It's very, very challenging to do that, okay? So we got like our base static lunge. We did a reverse lunge. All right, now we're gonna go into forward lunge. Now forward lunge becomes quite a bit harder because we have to decelerate all this weight, right? And one of the things that I always talk about is like, think about being a ninja, right? So when you forward lunge, I'm gonna not make a sound, right? Because a lot of times if you do, you might be, okay? And then your joints get a little bit beat up. So let's try to do forward lunge, keeping those same things in check, meaning I'm gonna still keep rib cage down, stay nice and tall, okay? Level hips, land soft, push away. And when you push away, one quick cue, watch out for this. Right, that's one of the main things that happens is that you kind of bend your body backward rather than staying tight, and now all my legs doing all the work, okay? So let's just go for like three reps real quick. Nice. Land soft. Still feel that whole foot. Nice. So think about that tripod foot that we talked about. Good, you can see Kelsey's not bending backwards, she's staying nice and tall on that position. And break. All right, great. So we did like 3 different, so think progression. Static lunge, reverse lunge, forward lunge. All right, now we're gonna get a little kind of, I would say, not sciencey with it, but I actually think that for lunges for most people, to get the most out of it, both athletically and as far as building muscle goes, I like a little bit of a lean, right? So let's take the reverse lunge, for instance, okay? So if I step back, notice how I'm gonna push my knee forward and actually get a little bit of a lean and sit into my butt cheek, okay? Now, what does this look like, right? It looks more of an athletic movement, but I'm getting a stretch on my glute, I get a positive shin angle, and now I'm coming out of that position, okay? And this doesn't bang up your knees. It actually is healthy for the knees if you can do that. So we're gonna get a little bit of a lean. It's a little bit more glute dominant lunge, and it's a little bit more of an athletic lunge.
So Luca, can you explain why that positive knee forward is okay in this scenario? Because that's a common coaching cue that people will automatically go to, where it's like, don't have your knee go over your toe, don't have your knee go forward. Can you explain
Great
the
question.
difference?
Absolutely, great question. So, and you've probably heard this before where it's like, hey, if your knee goes past your toe, that bangs up the knees. it's actually the exact opposite, okay? So to have a healthy knee flexion, we actually have to, even in a squat, we have to train the knees to go as far forward as possible. Now, if you have very tight ankles, that might now create some issues at the knee, right? So if you have super, super tight ankles and you can't get that knee forward, and now your heels come off the ground, now you might have some issues. But in general, like that is not dangerous. It is healthy. It's healthy for the knees and it's better for performance. And honestly, you just get more range of motion and you can build more muscle with that. So, but now here's the thing. You might be like, but what if it hurts when I do that? Then you got to work on some ankle mobility drills, hip mobility drills, and improve the soft tissue. Actually, even that stretch we were talking about, like if you're probably very tight in its front side, and as that becomes better, like the knee will also stop hurting you in that position, even if you drive that toe forward.
If your knee is hurting on a lunge and you're going forward, are your heels lifting off the ground? Is it ankle mobility? Is it hip mobility? It's not always a knee problem.
Correct.
It's other things.
I would even say it's almost never a knee problem. Where it shows up is at the knee, right? The pressure goes into the knee because we have a restriction here or a restriction here. And so this is actually one of those things that as soon as you can start doing it pain-free, I highly advise that that's the way that you lunge because it's gonna strengthen that, okay? So that's a very, very important part. But like Kelsey said, be careful on any lunge that you do, is your heel coming off the ground, right? Just like on a squat, you don't want that to happen. You don't want that to happen with a lunge either.
And that's where it comes to pushing off the whole foot.
The whole foot. And this is just a great, I would say, analogy for anything, okay? Imagine like pushing through the middle of your foot or that tripod that we talked about. And when you lunge, what I love as an analogy, and this helps out a lot, we actually didn't talk about this. When you're in this position, think about if you're at the gym and this was a leg press, right? I would push down into the ground like it's a leg press, okay? And it gives you really, really good posture. So if you think about, like I said, if you're sitting back and doing that right now, just think about you're doing that exact same motion, pushing it into the ground with your whole foot. And it's incredible like how much that can fix sometimes some nagging pains and stuff, right? Oh, I felt my back, but now it feels good. Oh, I felt my groin, but it feels good. So make sure that you're checking those things because even just little tweaks can make a huge difference. Because from there, with the lunges, we can do a ton of different stuff. Pauses, do a slower eccentric, or one of my favorites, which Kelsey's experienced in a finisher, but it's the Bulgarian split squat, right? As soon as we take the balance away here, also that makes it more challenging because we can load that front leg more. Okay, so watch out for those. I think we covered about 5 or 6 main kind of issues that you see with the lunge, and plug them in the next time you do the lunge. And then let us know, does it feel better? Your performance improved? Do you your knees not hurt as much, right? You're not getting groin kind of issues, your ankles? Just let us know, but put them into play.